Hello there. I'm responding to one of Sargon of Akkad's videos here. That is a response to one of Mike Rugnetta of Idea Channel's videos, which talks about things like Lewis's Law and Egalitarianism and the like. Sargon's video is about a half an hour, and most of it is, for people on his side, entertainingly nitpicking at the edges of his opponent's arguments. Like, in the beginning, he goes on and on about descriptive and prescriptive natures of laws, and more stuff about laws, which is all very entertaining, but not terribly enlightening. But he does have some points that are substantive or indicative of actual misunderstanding, and I'd like to address those.
Lewis Law comments justify feminism by virtue of the fact that they illustrate an inability to meet feminism on its own actual terms.
No, Lewis's law is a fallacy called begging the question. This can essentially be boiled down to, I need feminism because people disagree that I need feminism. No one is obligated to meet feminism on its own terms if its own terms assume the correctness of its position without proving it. What you're saying here is that feminism is beyond criticism, because any criticism of feminism has to come from within feminism, thus reinforcing feminism. There can never be a time when feminism isn't valid in your mind, because you are mental. It is not sound reasoning to say that the existence of counter-arguments to feminism that do not engage and operate within feminism prove feminism. That is insane.
The problem here is a misunderstanding of Lewis's law, evidenced by our use of the phrase counter-arguments, because no one is talking about counter-arguments. This is Mike Rugnetta's fault, as he doesn't adequately explain what Lewis's law really is. He does his best to correct that in his follow-up video.
When I think we talk about Lewis's law being that comments on articles or things about feminism justify feminism, from my perspective, what that doesn't mean is that anyone who disagrees is automatically wrong. I think really what it means is that there tend to be comments which show attitudes that are indicative of the kinds of stuff that feminism is trying to address. These are comments like, get back in the kitchen, that's just the way things are, women don't have it so bad.
So what Lewis's law is saying is that articles or whatever about feminism will invariably attract comments that demonstrate attitudes that feminism exists in the first place to challenge. These comments justify feminism, and that the object being justified is the further exercise of feminism. It's basically saying, look at all these attitudes people have about women that we take issue with that seem to make themselves evident whenever we talk about our ideas. It seems we still have a lot of work to do. It justifies staying in business, continuing with our identification of these attitudes we take issue with, because they keep demonstrating themselves.
Lewis Law comments justify feminism in that they illustrate the very discourse and attitudes that feminism hopes to address, but
To censor. You do not want to address them, you want to prevent them. And no, I don't think feminists should be allowed to prevent people telling jokes, no matter how off colour. Not in any way, and not while I can fucking have a voice in the discussion.
Look, freedom is my primary value. I will criticize other people if they claim to have freedom as one of their primary values, but fail to universally apply it. I'll accuse them of not holding freedom as one of their values, but as one of their hobbies. When I say that I abhor censorship, know that I mean it. I regularly rewatch Christopher Hitchens' video on free speech, pretty much whenever I feel its message becoming remotely lost on me or when I need a boost of inspiration. However, I take issue with what you seem to consider to be censorship. If person A is being loud and belligerent to person B, and person B asks them to knock it off, is person B censoring person A? Are you arguing that, yes, person B is calling for person A to not express what they want to the world, therefore person B is censoring them? Is anyone asking anyone else to behave differently censorship? I say no. Feminists challenge society to behave better by proposing alternate behaviors and giving the reasons why they think those behaviors are better. Feminists do not want to control people. Feminists want to implore people to behave differently by appealing to their reason and their empathy. That is free speech. That's what everyone does, always, whenever they have disagreements with one another. My buddy leaves his socks all over the house. If I ask him not to do that, am I censoring him? Am I trying to control his behavior? No, I'm asking him not to do that, because it's gross to have dirty socks strewn all over chairs and tables in the living room and kitchen, like where you prepare food. He can then take that into consideration and decide if he wants to continue to throw his socks wherever he wants or not. The decision is up to him. I'm not forcing him in any way. Feminists are similarly not forcing you to agree with feminism or preventing you from telling jokes or any nonsense of that kind. All we can do is attempt to make a reasonable argument. And if you haven't heard any arguments from feminists that have swayed your opinions, no, that's too bad. But it doesn't make the arguments censorship. Now, if feminists do try to force their view on others, then that is censorship, and it is bad. And I've heard stories of feminists going to men's rights events on college campuses and actively interfering with them. You can have your thing outside or whatever, and hold signs and pass out stuff and talk to people before and after. That's fine, whatever. But actively disrupting proceedings is not okay, so fuck them. However, no group has a monopoly on that kind of behavior. Every group has bad actors like these you can point to the point where it's not really intellectually honest to do so. Those feminists are not representative of feminism, and one can argue that men's rights activists who believe similarly are not representative of their group either. In the end, it's just best to focus on investigating the philosophies themselves.
At its worst, it is a diversion, responding to fears that by giving women more power, that means men will have less, which is not the case.
Nonsense. Egalitarianism is in no way concerned with power. It's concerned with treatment and rights.
Yeah, the degradation of treatment and rights through a loss of power. For example, Gamergate is concerned, groundlessly, that male game developers will lose the power to make the games they want because of the power given to women. Another example, men's rights folks are concerned, problematically and unjustifiably, with giving women more power to legally pursue rape allegations because it could affect the treatment and rights of men by strengthening the hand of those who would pursue false rape allegations. Treatment and rights have everything to do with power in the abstract sense, and that's what Mike is talking about.
Egalitarianism is a men's rights project. Feminism is a human project.
To say that an ideology that deals exclusively with the rights of women is a human project, in contrast to a philosophy that deals with the rights of both men and women, is to think that men are not human. It is to think that women are the only people in society who have any value. I can't believe you think egalitarianism is an MRA philosophy. Well, in fact, I can understand that you believe that. I really can, actually. You think that because it doesn't expressly shit on the rights of men, that it must be an MRA philosophy. It's not an MRA philosophy.
Indeed, egalitarianism is not an MRA philosophy exclusively, but it is part of the MRA philosophy. The key misunderstanding and miscommunication on Mike's part is that there is a difference between egalitarianism of the purely philosophical sort and egalitarianism as practiced by men's rights folks. Mike is talking about the latter. Now, why is Mike proposing that egalitarianism falls short of humanism? The argument is that while egalitarianism is necessary, it is not sufficient to achieve equality. I like to use this political cartoon to help illustrate the point. It's not perfect because it's on the subject of race, but all of the mechanisms in play are precisely the same, be it race or gender. This cartoon illustrates in the first 3 panels how the white man has achieved his goals and reached new heights at the expense of the black man. In the 4th panel, the black man protests. In the 5th panel, the white man concedes and agrees to adopt egalitarianism. The 6th panel is the panel of interest because in this scenario, it is painfully clear that although egalitarianism has been adopted, equality has not been achieved. What the white man accomplished at the expense of the black man has now been adopted as a new status quo that egalitarianism prevents from being changed, since doing so would require affording the black man special treatment because of their race. The problem at hand is that the assertion of egalitarianism in an environment of inequality upholds inequality by dismissing its existence. As a case study, let's look at the Black Lives Matter movement and its corresponding All Lives Matter response. This post on Reddit by Geek Aesthet illustrates how All Lives Matter response to Black Lives Matter is problematic. Imagine that you're sitting down to dinner with your family, and while everyone else gets a serving of the meal, you don't get any. So you say, I should have my fair share. So you say, I should get my fair share. As a direct response to this, your dad corrects you, saying, everyone should get their fair share. Now that's a wonderful statement. Now that's a wonderful sentiment. Indeed, everyone should, and that was kind of your point in the first place, that you should be a part of everyone, and you should get your fair share also. However, Dad's smart-ass comment just dismissed you and didn't solve the problem that you still haven't gotten any. The problem is that the statement, I should get my fair share, has an implicit "too" at the end. I should get my fair share too, just like everyone else. But your dad's response treated your statement as though you meant only I should get my fair share, which clearly was not your intention. As a result, his statement that everyone should get their fair share, while true, only served to ignore the problem that you were trying to point out. The exact same problem happens when you dismiss feminism's focus on issues that affect women and insist that the egalitarian approach that doesn't focus on anyone in particular is the appropriate one. Hell, look how Geekesthet's explanation perfectly predicts your mischaracterization of feminism as thinking that women are the only people in society who have any value. The end result is that issues that do, in reality, uniquely affect women get dismissed since you're rejecting any kind of focus on their issues. That is the mechanism by which the assertion of egalitarianism in an environment of inequality upholds inequality. That is why Mike stated,
At its worst, it is a diversion.
That is why Mike calls egalitarianism a men's rights project, because it upholds inequality to the benefit of men.
But look, I can show you how we know that feminism is not synonymous with egalitarianism. This is a distinctly anti-egalitarian report, but it is entirely feminist.
Yes, because he's trying to do something about the inequality. Look, I don't know if your proposal is the way to go. I don't know if any kind of proposal of affirmative action or reparations or whatever is the way to achieve equality. We are all equal, and egalitarianism is necessary to execute that, but it is not sufficient. We can't delude ourselves into thinking that we have already achieved the perfect egalitarian society. It would be naive to assert that we have. We need egalitarianism and open eyes to acknowledge where it is lacking in order to achieve equality. And here is my bold claim. MRAs offer no open eyes. Feminists do.
This happened when Louisiana Congressman John Fleming mistook an Onion article about a Planned Parenthood abortionplex as earnest. Or on this Onion article about a woman deciding not to support feminism if it means killing all men.
And just like the creationist, you don't really think that this should be a signal that you should reevaluate your ideology. You just think that it's just other people that are the problem. You're not it's amazing. You're not thinking that, okay, just because people actually legitimately can't tell when someone says, look, we're going to create an abortionplex, or if we're actually going to kill men, I don't support feminism, they can't tell that it's a joke. You don't think that reflects in any way on feminism. But I bet you would indeed think that the jokes about creationism reflect on creationism.
I'll turn that reasoning around on you, Sargon. People legitimately can't discern a difference between Gamergate and misogynistic harassment of women. You don't think that reflects in any way on Gamergate? But in the end, no. I do not think that strawman arguments count as valid criticism.
Men, and furthermore, if I could politely inquire as to the sources you've used for determining that the wage gap is real.
Isn't it male feminists who wear the fedoras? I mean, why would you else tip and say milady? Is that not... It's weird, this fedora thing, isn't it? Because I really don't know who you're supposed to be taking the piss out of, but...
Madam.
What? I thought you think that men's rights activists are misogynists. Why would they be so polite to women? If they hate women? I don't think that what you're doing makes any sense.
No. Mike is throwing together a bunch of memes pretty haphazardly here, but fedoras aren't associated with male feminists. Nor are they really associated with men's rights folks, even. They're mainly associated with guys who are bad with women, most commonly the nice guy, who is most likely to tip their fedora and refer to a woman as milady. The idea being that the nice guy is under the impression that they're just being polite and kind to the object of their affection, but in reality they're being uncomfortably over-formal and idealizing to the point where it seems like they're under the impression that women are some sort of intractable other that cannot be dealt with like a normal human being. In the end, that's what it's all about.